Hello everybody, welcome back to the Crooked Hour. Today we're going to be doing a how to bet both ways, breaking down this fight, having a little chat about it. And the fight is Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. I'm terrible with names again. But as you can see, here they are on the screen. I think this is a good fight, and a good fight for a lot of reasons. I'm going to keep this one nice and sweet, Got to record a lot of these because this is a good card in my opinion. I actually kind of like it more than 280 if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, Hooker versus Puelles. That's just what I'm going to call him. Claudio I'm going to call him. So what I realised in my videos, I go over the tail of the tape a little bit too long. I know, I get it. Nearly put myself to sleep. So we're just going to go over the main points and quickly talk about them and then move on how to bet both ways. So 21-12 versus 13-2. Dan Hooker will have a 2-inch height advantage here, and a reach advantage. I've got that ticked blue because blue means good, red means bad when we're looking down these stats. Switch versus southpaw. Dan Hooker got it ticked because he's landing a lot more shots. And he's pretty accurate with them, 47 compared to 51 when Claudio is only throwing 1.99 strikes. That's a good stat to have. And Claudio, even though Dan Hooker is absorbing more strikes than Claudio is absorbing more strikes than he's landing, and he's only landing 1.99 and absorbing 2.89. So that's a red flag for me. As you see in his fights, he can be hit. He can be pretty hittable, and that's not something you want against Dan Hooker when he's got 3-inch reach advantage. And by the stats, he's just the better striker. He's got power. He's going to be dangerous for Claudio. And then we go down. The defense is close. Go down, and this is where Claudio starts to take over a little bit for me. He's got the takedown average 2.74. Dan Hooker's probably not going to be shooting in this fight, but he's only got a 38% takedown accuracy. So while he's shooting a lot, which I think he's going to need to do in this fight, and that's a good thing, but how long is it going to take him to get Dan Hooker to the ground, who has a 78% takedown defense? That's the question you got to ask here. But if he does get it to the ground, he's got a submission average of 1.4. And Dan Hooker's been submitted a few times, yeah, they're against great people like Islam. But, he's got to want to be careful here, really. Claudio's got to be careful of the hands of Hooker, the distance, where he can get tagged from the outside, and he doesn't have the best striking defense or striking offense. But Hooker's got to be really careful to get this to the ground, and if he does find himself there, to get back up, because as you see, 38% takedown defense, even if Hooker gets taken down once, who's to say if he gets back to his feet, he can't defend a few takedowns because he's kind of got the feel of the fight. It's an interesting one. And then we go how to bet both ways, starting off with Dan Hooker. If I think Dan Hooker's going to win this fight, I think it's going to be by a KO. Why do I think this? Claudio's too hittable. Maybe he can win a decision, but I just think if Claudio racks up control time, which I do feel like he's gonna at times, I just see Dan Hooker either knocking him out, or he could very well win a decision. Don't get me wrong, but my kind of thoughts is, I feel like if he's gonna be a great Dan Hooker, if he's gonna be the Dan Hooker that can beat Claudio, he's gonna be the Dan Hooker that can finish Claudio. If you know what I mean. If he can defend the takedowns and land some good shots, he's gonna have Claudio, covering up, and that's where he's gonna get the TKO, I believe, possibly in the first or second round. If it's not looking that way, I think that's when Claudio's gonna take over. But by any means, I didn't put it up here, but by any means, Dan Hooker moneyline makes sense because, he could very well win by decision, don't get me wrong. But I think for the odds, Dan Hooker by KO is a good pick. He's paying out 2.40. I believe he can do it. I believe he can KO Claudio. He's just got to defend the takedowns, stay on his feet, not get taken down by Claudio, and just tee off on him. That's what he's got to do here. Next up, Claudio. I've got Claudio money line because he is an underdog at 2.35 or by a sub, which the odds might have came out now, But when I wrote these up, which was yesterday, there was no odds. But I'm guessing it's going to be about the 5.00 mark, somewhere around there. I'd say it won't be paying the best. Like, it won't be paying anything above 8. How I'm going to see if I can actually get the odds for that. So the actual real odds, are 3.80. I was off. Still not a bad one, though. I mean, Claudio, that's his most likely path to win. You know, that's his most likely path to win is by submission. He could win by points. He's paying $8 for points. I think this fight isn't going to a decision, though. I don't have a prop bet for this fight just because I feel like I'm on the dog side here. I'm on the side of Claudio. I need to see it from Dan Hooker, and this very well could be the perfect fight to show it, but I just don't know, man. I just don't know. I feel like Claudio can use his somewhat decent striking to close the distance, and he's just going to struggle to get Hooker to the ground. But I feel like if he manages to get it there, he will find success, and he might very well submit Dan Hooker. But on the side of Hooker, he's got to keep that distance, defend the takedowns, and just keep clipping him with shots. He can't get over-aggressive, but he can't be too patient and wait for Claudio to take him down. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one to start off the main card. Should be good. I've got the dog, but, I mean, nothing wrong with having the favourite here. You know, nothing wrong with having the favourite. You know, I believe there's profit in Hooker by KO, and I believe if I on the side of Claudio, I'd just be taking the money line, and that's that. Thank you all for joining in and listening. Hope you guys enjoy this card. I'm going to be coming out with like pretty much every fight on the main card, a how to bet both ways. Excited for this event. As always, guys, have a good one.
Eternal is fucking mad.